As many of you may know, I do private consultations online. If somebody is looking for information about the Philippines, sometimes it's practical stuff like putting together an itinerary for a certain island and hotels and flights and all that sort of stuff. But I would say about half of the consultations I do have something to do with resolving a relationship in the Philippines. Sometimes it's long distance. Other times it's actually here with expats living here in the Philippines. On average, I usually do about one consultation, sometimes two in a week. So yesterday, I was speaking with a guy, and again, I maintain their privacy and confidentiality, so we'll just call him Kevin, not his real name. What I'll do is I'll share with you his situation, and then I will play for you the response I gave him. And we did continue on talking even afterwards the following day. But in this clip that I'll share with you here, you might see in yourself getting into the same kind of situation. Now, compared to many other situations guys have contacted me about, this one was actually a bit more common, and it has to do with the situation where you meet a Filipina, there's that initial attraction, you start dating, things start getting kind of heavy, and after a bit of intimacy, within a week, it's normal to start thinking, well, how should I assess this new situation? Is this a relationship that could actually turn into something long-term? Or is this just kind of a passing thing? And so we try to assess how much interest there is from this Filipina. Now, in Kevin, again, not his real name, in Kevin's case, there were many proclamations of I love you and intimacy, but when he approached her and sat down, which was the right thing to do, and had that conversation, hey, I'm really into you. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about us being a couple? How do you feel about seeing if this will work out? I've done that plenty of times. Whenever I thought that somebody, a Filipina, showed that kind of promise. Again, it takes time, but you have to start somewhere. And so it's that talk to establish with the Filipina, we are now exclusive. Are you good with that? Do you want that? Or are you just kind of not interested? So that's the situation that Kevin found himself in, but he wasn't really getting a solid answer that indicated, yes, that's what she wants. She kept holding back. She still wanted the intimacy. She still wanted to say that she loved him, but she didn't want to move forward with a relationship. And eventually, long story short, he found out that she was seeing another guy. So I'll play for you now my response to his situation.
Okay, so there's a couple things to touch on. Well, I'll just cut to the chase on the first item and then elaborate from there. There is no chance of making this work. I know that wasn't your main question, but just to get that kind of settled, this is not a workable situation. This is not going to somehow get massaged into a great relationship where you just kind of look back at how you met and go, oh, wasn't that a funny story? Yeah, we're so in love now. No, that's not going to happen. And the reason I say that is because, and a little bit of this ties into Filipino culture, with women, single women, with a foreigner, interacting with a foreigner. You're in close proximity. You said you were neighbors. It was convenient to see each other on a regular basis. Most Filipinas are a little bit enthralled with foreigners, so that's kind of a given. And so, of course, everything started out pretty hunky-dory. She's totally open to going out on a date. She's totally open to chatting. And, as far as her saying she loves you and all that, they have a word for that here, Kilig. It's just sort of like what we would call flirting, but on steroids. Just like chicks get on Instagram in bikinis because they want all the attention that they get. In the same way, Filipinas, I have noticed, again, for the last 12 years, that they love the response. They could be chatting with a guy in Romania for 3 hours, and they'll tell him that they love him. And it's not. And obviously, you and I know, they don't even know this person. How could they love them? That's not why she said it. She didn't see. We as Americans, we're more logical. It's like, well, she said she loved me. It's because she loves me. Well, not in the Philippines. Like I said, the chick talking to long distance with a guy she's never met in Romania or United States, Canada, doesn't matter. In the first 3 hours or the first 3 chats, she's like, I love you. What she's really looking for is for the guy to say he loves her back because of the way it'll make her feel. It's like the rat pulling on the lever. It's like, if I tell him I love him, then he's going to tell me he loves me, and then I'm going to feel good. So you can't take anything that she said in this whole interaction at face value. And I know this sounds cliche, but actions speak louder than words. So that brings us to the next item, her actions. I remember years ago, in fact, it was in high school, my first job was as a cashier. And, I went through an ROP class, and in high school, it was a requirement, regional occupational program, whatever. And so they were teaching us about being a cashier and how to make change. And back then, it was not digital. It was all manual. You had to do it in your head. You had to make change in your head. The cash register was a non-electric, basically a glorified typewriter. But one of the things they told us about money is they asked us, do you know how bank tellers know, how they train them to know a counterfeit from real money? And of course, we didn't know. And they said, well, they simply let them handle a lot of money, real money. And they get so familiar with what real money looks like that as soon as there's an anomaly, a deviation, something doesn't seem right, they can spot it right away. And relationships are the same thing. If you look at her actions, she is not acting like a woman looking for a relationship. She's not acting like a woman looking for a committed, monogamous, exclusive relationship. Nothing she said, nothing she did indicated that she wanted to be exclusive. Take it to the next level. Now, as far as your part in all this, if you want to call it fault or blame or guilt or whatever, your misstep here was you didn't see that. You totally missed it. Because when she said, well, give me a little more time to think about it twice, that was just the Filipino way of saving face. That was just her. She didn't have the balls to tell you, no, I'm not interested in being exclusive. I like you, you're a good friend, but no. My answer to your question is no. See, that's not part of Filipino culture with a foreigner. They don't want to say that. Now in the States, yeah, they'll just outright tell you. But in the Philippines, they phrase it as, well, let me think about it, which is their way to get out the door and get out of the situation. And it doesn't matter how many times you ask them. If they're not into it, they're not into it. But they won't tell you. Extremely rare. I can't even think of a time that a Filipina actually told me what was on her mind. It was her actions that told me what was on her mind. So at that point, you should have just dropped her and moved on. But by continuing, like you said yourself, until you're exclusive, you're each free agents, free to date whoever you want. Now, as far as being with another girl or two, being as how no exclusive relationship was set with this girl, in that context, you did nothing wrong. She wasn't your girlfriend, and you gave her 2 opportunities for it, and she turned you down. I mean, she sideswiped it, but she basically did not accept. So you were still a free agent when you were with these other girls. Now, the only reason you're now today trying to make sense of it all is because now it's painfully apparent that you are not exclusive with this girl. And her being with some other guy is proof of that. So she has told you, and she has shown you, and now even shown you in the clearest way she does not want to be exclusive with you. And if she had just had the balls to say it at the beginning 3 weeks ago or whatever, it could have saved everybody a lot of trouble. But again, this is the Philippines. You got to go by what they do and not what they say. Because you always, and this is something I do or did, when I was dating, and so that I could calibrate and kind of separate my emotions, because there's what I want, and then there's the situation in front of me, which may or may not give me what I want. And the way that I would refocus is I would ask myself the question, okay, I'd first look at everything she's saying and everything she's doing, and then I would honestly ask myself, is this how a woman in love behaves? And the answer in this situation should have been clear, no. A woman that's in love with you, man, the second you asked her, I want to be exclusive, she'd have been all over it. She would have jumped your bones literally right there to seal the deal. Okay, she would have told you all day, and then the next day, I'm your girlfriend, and you're my boyfriend, and you're not going to be with nobody else, and I'm not going to be with nobody else. That's what a woman in love does. But she didn't do any of that. So it maybe showed some promise, but it ain't going nowhere. She's not interested. Just move on to the next one.
So there you have it. And before you really jump on his case and say, oh, I would have just moved on after the first time, and how could he, fall for this or whatever? I mean, realize not everybody is looking to just play the field. When you're actually looking for, or you're at least open to, a relationship that means something, you do kind of stick your neck out. You do put your heart out there. You do, in essence, get your hopes up, because you're hoping, hey, maybe this is going to turn into something good. And when it doesn't, it's a disappointment. And as I've said so many times before, people tend to handle disappointment either with sorrow or anger. There are some guys that if it happened to them, they would have gotten all pissed off and angry at her and vengeful and gotten really ridiculous about it. Other guys would have been so sorrowful, it would have taken them months to snap out of it. Now, fortunately, I can say that after having more conversation with Kevin, he can acknowledge that, yeah, it was a disappointment. Yeah, it emotionally hurt a bit, but he's going to be fine. There's plenty of other Filipinas that can provide great companionship, plenty of Filipinas that are beautiful and full of energy and fun to be with. This one that he met was not the last Coca-Cola in the desert. She was a possible candidate that simply didn't work out. And the thing to learn from all of this is that's perfectly okay.